It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Thursday, April 24th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that loves it when Russ puts out his new draft rankings. There is so much to talk about.
Always something.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to get into Russ's new rankings and where the top four play out as it relates to the Flyers position currently in the draft lottery list. And we are going to also do a deep dive into prospect defenseman Kashawn Aitcheson, who's in the OHL. Really fascinating
Oh, yeah.
prospect here. Like, so much skill there. Excited to talk about him. A couple little bits of NHL news to talk about. First off, we do know that the Hockey Canada trial started, and we're just not planning on covering that unless the
No.
Flyers get involved somehow. But we do know it's happening. Just want to put
Yeah,
that
and
out
there's a
there.
long list of potential people that are going to get called, so it's going to drag on. There's a lot of NHLers on that
Yeah,
list who are on that
yeah.
team.
Yeah. So we'll kind of keep that on the back burner there. The bigger news in the NHL from yesterday and the day before, Lou Lamoriello out with the New York Islanders. We kind of knew that was going to happen.
Hmm.
They've been going nowhere for a very long time, and I think this is maybe a year too late, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, when it's someone like Lou, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's had an amazing career. Uh, Look, I've had many chats with him. He's super smart hockey guy, but there's always comes a time for everybody. And right now, the Islanders are a team that really did. They need to help Patrick Waugh out if he's going to still be the coach, but they need to, have a direction here, and they didn't really have a direction this year.
Yeah, it's like and they didn't do bad moves, they just did no moves of note, and that
Yeah,
was like, I think, just being stagnant was the issue
yeah.
this year. So, interested to see what changes they make and how that affects where the Flyers fall in the divisional, rankings and, activity this offseason for sure. One of the big things, obviously, is the NHL draft, and it'll be here before we know it. And I can't believe we're at version 4.0 of
I
your
know.
rankings at this point, Russ. And I think, between version 3.0, which was March, and 4.0, which is April, what are the big things? I mean, obviously, the junior hockey playoffs are a big part
Yes.
of it. But, is there anything you're looking for specifically in the playoffs, or are there other things going on that are affecting any adjustments you're making at this point?
Well, I mean, junior hockey playoffs is a big thing. I mean, if you want to be a top pick, you have to do well in the playoffs. And I thought last year, I was like, hey, let's give Michael Misa a break. He, you know, younger guy, 17 last year, he was at 11 points in 17 games. Okay. But this year, he only had 3 points in 4 games. Like, just to give you an example, Zane Parekh had 9, and he's a defenseman. I looked up Chernisov. I think he had 7 or 8. I mean, he
Mhm.
had 3. That's not a good playoff. Like, it's just not. And so if you want me to go all in on the 62 goals and 134 points, if I'm going to do that, I have to see production in the playoffs. And so, like, he didn't show it. He was 6th on his team in scoring, something like that, 5th or 6th, yeah, something like that. So that's not good enough. No, it's not enough to drop him a lot, but it's just enough to say, okay, I kind of look at this 134 points as an outlier now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting because I think when you're looking at, will somebody's success at the junior level translate to the NHL, can they step up in the big moments is a big question, and the playoffs are those big moments,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why you kind of have to do those things. And as we're getting closer here, there's fewer and fewer opportunities that these kids have to kind of make their case. And especially now that a lot of them are eliminated from the playoffs at this point, there isn't much left. There
And
is a
he's not playing in the
U18s,
U18s. He is not.
right? Well, some of them are already 18 and they can't, like from
Right.
a age perspective, but the ones on the younger side of the draft class at least might
They
have
can.
opportunity
Right.
here. So that's a whole thing in and of itself. So like the older guys in the draft class, which I say older and they're 18, but
Right.
it is really interesting there. I The other thing is we've sort of seen this gelling of the top 4 in the
Yes.
draft. And it's pretty much established, I would say, that you have James Higgins, Matthew Schaefer, Porter Marteau, and Michael Misa. Those are your top 4 in the rankings. I would say like 90% of the other lists I've seen out there have those 4 guys in some sort of order,
And
not
that's, I think,
necessarily
how the
what they
draft will
do.
be. Yeah, I think at the draft, like I said, there's very few things that are ever a consensus at the draft. I think this will actually be a consensus. Just those 4 being in the top 4.
Yeah. So as far as what you see, why do you still have Higgins and in the one spot when many people have adjusted and made a change there when maybe they had Higgins there
Right.
before?
Well, again, I think they've judged him unfairly because, again, he can't score 134 points in college. He's playing against 23-year-olds. He averaged a point a game through the entire season and was scoring goals right into the playoffs. Like, he did everything he could do. Uh, he's a freshman in college, and you still, if you take, Macklin Celebrini aside, because he's not Macklin Celebrini, it's a tremendous year that he had and what he did. And
Right.
I've seen this guy in practice. I've seen this guy in a lot of different situations, and he's always a stud. So, and it's not to say, and nobody else here is. I just feel like people have now judged him for too long. And so, this is what happens. And so, yeah, it might happen in the draft too. But again, doesn't mean he's not as good. We've watched guys in the draft drop like a Cole Caulfield, and he's
Yeah.
proved it on the ice, and Higgins will prove it on the ice, in my estimation.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think the college versus junior conversation is an important one to
It
have,
is.
but I think it's a missing link in some of
Mhm.
the prognosticating about what these guys project as. And I think, that's one of the reasons why people who like play in Europe, for instance, sometimes I feel like they get overlooked in the same way that the college versus
They
junior
do.
conversation happens, right?
I'm like a
Now,
friend of the Euros in draft
yeah.
because I talk to them. Sometimes they get, the guys who aren't going top 10 don't get ignored, but don't get the same kind of coverage. I think that's fair to say. And so I always give them more coverage because
Mhm.
we know less about them and I want to know more about them. And so, like, yeah, with this, like with the college game, it's kind of like at times, like in Hockey East, that's very physical. And you have older, stronger players to go up against
Yeah.
when you're facing off and all those other things. And you have to take that into account, I believe.
Yeah, and also, like, have you seen the Bean Pod? I mean, my god,
Right.
you
They kill
know?
each other.
They do. There's a lot to that. Now, as far as, like, your rankings go and the biggest movers, obviously, as we know, the closer it gets to the draft, the chance to move gets smaller and smaller, but you did have, Radim Merca of
Hmm.
the Seattle Thunderbirds moved, from 19 to 15 on your list, and that is something that I think surprised me, but also like from a Flyers perspective, he's suddenly like maybe somebody you would have to trade up for. But why the big jump for you?
Yeah, well, he's having a great season. He is putting up points. I think his skating is good. I think there is a bit of a project in him because he's a bigger guy with a lot of moving parts. But, he's got a pretty good package. So I think there's a limit to where I would draft him. Online,
Mhm.
I had this whole discussion with somebody, and it was more than a discussion at the beginning, but it was very civil at the end, and that's how I like to lead things. But the point was, if he goes higher in the draft, I wouldn't do it. So in other words, no way would I do it with the Flyers' first pick. And with the second one, maybe, but he may not be there. And I feel like let some other team take on this project, because I think he is still a project while it's very tantalizing.
Yeah. One of the other guys has a lot of intrigue in Flyer circles is Braden Coots. We're going to do like a big deep
Yeah.
dive into him on a later prospect profile show, but he did go from 21 to 18 on your list, which may move him out of Flyers territory unless they move up. But I think like he's an interesting center to talk about.
There is a lot of discussion about him, the way he plays, the projectability. He's got a lot of projectability in the NHL. And I think that's one of the things where it's like in this draft, we've talked about it, like the high floor. And so
Right.
I think he falls into that. So I think, he's one of these guys that we'll do a deep dive on, and you'll see there's a lot to like there.
Yeah. Cam Schmidt, a winger, went down from
Yeah.
20 to 25 on your list. Was that more a product of other people going up, or was it really about him?
No, it's more the other people going up. I still like him. It's just he's 5'7". Like
Yeah.
he's 5'7". And so you have to take that into account. Now he's got a little feistiness in him and everything, but my whole thing with him is at 5'7", is he going to be a really big impact offensive player in the NHL? It's going to be harder, much harder than what he's doing now, and it's going to be much harder in the future because everything's getting bigger and faster. So that's a function of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, to be continued, but we are going to now kind of dig into the top 10 and where the Flyers' top pick will be and kind of what the strategy should and will likely be around it, because those might be different things. We are going to dig into that coming up next.
The NHL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether I'm picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists in the NBA or goals and assists in the NHL, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after puck drop, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. I still say go with the Capitals. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
All right. Continuing our Russ's draft rankings version 4.0 deep dive here. Now, we talked a little bit about the top four already, but where the Flyers are, they're currently at 4 in the lottery, percentage list here. But where they're going to end up is 4, 5, 6, 1, or 2. And I would say in the likelihood order, I would say 5, 4, 6, 2, 1, right?
Yes. Yeah, 5 seems to be the feel that I have, and what, it's not a bad fate, just what their fate might be. Like, I just
Right.
feel
And
like that could be it.
that's just math, right? Because if the
Yes.
Flyers have like a 9.5% chance of getting the first or second overall pick, that means there's a 90% chance they get neither of those, and other teams below them, which is like maybe a 60 to 65% chance. If you add all those percentages together, like that's a pretty high percentage that somebody leapfrogs them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so five seems to be like a good spot, like to start from in terms of expectations here, but the worst will be 6. So knowing that, and knowing that there's kind of a locked in top 4 here, I think like if the Flyers wind up staying at 4, the correct answer is to just take who's ever left of that top 4, right?
Yes. Yeah, any of those top 4 are going to be better than what you're thinking about next.
Now, then the question comes, given the Flyers' history, will they follow that logic? Or are they going to potentially take somebody else from the remainder of the top 10?
I think in the top 4, they would follow that logic. I think once you hit 5, then you have to really go by your list again, assuming those top 4 are the top 4, because you never know. It's the draft. But
Right.
the large assumption is it's that. And then I think you get down to, Anton Frundell and something, Khalib Denoye, and it might be. Again, when I put somebody at rankings and they're like at 9, there's like a variable of 5 because it's the draft. 5 up, 5
Mhm.
down, but this one could be 4 or 5 up. Because if there's a little bit of a run on centers, like if let's just say Flyers go and they take Denoye, well, then Frundell might go next. And
Right.
then all of a sudden that's, so they may start we're going to take the best center left kind of thing because there's a strength here at center.
Right, and that's where I see, like, the divergence in a lot of ranking lists versus mock drafts that are out
Mm-hmm.
there, and we've talked constantly about, Russ doesn't generally do
I
mock
don't like
drafts.
mock drafts.
Right, because it's just kind of plug and play to, like, guess, right, and to generate content, which is fine. Like that's a fine thing to do, but kind of looking at it from a Flyers perspective, I feel pretty strongly that Frondell is the right pick at 5 if the top 4 go as expected, just because of the skill set and the upside there.
Yeah.
But
Me personally,
I don't
that's the
know.
pick I would make too. Couple reasons. So, on Djurgårdens, it's interesting. The number 1 scorer, not in the playoffs, but in regular season, is old friend Patrick Thoresen, who's famous for blocking a shot where in the playoffs.
Right.
Like that's like when that happened, my buddy Shane Malloy, who used to be in charge of the rankings for EA Sports, told me to tell him his toughness rating went up after that. And that is a fact. His toughness rating went up after that. But to point out, Marcus Kruger's on that team. So there are older players that have played in the NHL on this team. So the fact that he has 7 points in the playoffs is good. He's got the same amount of points as Eklund. He is a center. They sometimes play together. I don't know if they're playing together on the playoff line. And that's an important thing. Like, I feel like he's had a good season, having a really good playoff. He's playing against men. And things are going well for him. And I love his shot. And I still think his wrist shot might be one of the best, if not the best, in this draft. So I think there's a lot of things that are projectable. I do think he's a center. I don't think he'll be a top line guy, but he's the kind of guy that if you wait on him, never know, he could be. And so I feel like his chances of being a top line center are better than Denoye. So, but again, it's still just reaching for the ceiling where Denoye is definitely, he's going to play. It's just a matter of where. Like
Right.
what
And
line.
so we talked about Denoye on March 13th, and then we did a Frondell Eklund kind of double shot
Yeah.
the following week on March 20th in terms of our deep dive. So if you want more information on those guys, you can look at our handy dandy spreadsheet of all the prospect
Your
profiles that we
spreadsheet.
have.
I can't do spreadsheets. I'm so bad.
Well, I put together the spreadsheet, but the link to it is in the show notes and it's pinned to our Blue Sky and Twitter profiles. So you can find it pretty easily with direct links to the segments where we talked about these guys. So for more information, please head over there. And I just, other than Denoye, because of the connection to Elliott, I just don't see the Flyers dipping deeper into that top 10 with Logan Hensler, Jake O'Brien. Now, I've seen a couple mocks with the Flyers taking Jake O'Brien, but I just don't see that given the high upside to these other guys.
Yeah, I think so. So a couple things. I'm looking at when Denoye played in the U18s a year ago, and so like he was 5th in scoring. Schaefer and McKenna were ahead of him, and so that's impressive on their part. And for Denoye, it's good but not great. So there's that, right? So that's when he matched up, because the Q numbers, we could talk about the validity of those all day long, but he does have talent, and so I look at it and I say Jake O'Brien is a safe pick. He's really good, but I don't know what his high end is. I don't know. I know that there is one there, but will it come out in the NHL? I don't know, but I know everything else will. Like, he'll be a good center in the NHL. There's no question about it. but Frondell could be better than good. Like he could be just that little bit, maybe not a star and maybe not great, but just, better than good. And I think that's just the difference.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I just really think that, one of the things we have talked about in terms of the Flyers and risk versus, a higher floor
Yeah.
kind of option here is that they really should go with conventional wisdom with this top pick here, that they absolutely need to take some risk. They need to do that with the lower picks in this round,
Yeah.
right? And
I
maybe
mean,
take a
Frondell
big
has taken some of the risk out of this by playing with men. Now,
Mhm.
if he's not a center in the end,
Yeah,
still okay. But he's playing against
right.
men now, so that's a really good precursor.
Right, exactly. And so that to me is why you just go with Frondell if you're at 5.
Yeah.
That's just what you do. But Flyers are Flyers and they might do something different, and who knows, maybe the Flyers do get that 1st or 2nd overall
I
pick
mean,
and we're
I don't
having a
even know the
completely
last time
different conversation, but
right. We never predict the right person for the Flyers, even though
no,
that
we
player
don't.
turns out to be a really good player. Like that's
That's true.
that's
That
definite.
is
We've
true.
done a good job with that, but we
I'll
have not
take
done
it.
I would too, but we have not done a good job predicting what they will do.
Yeah, yeah. So, we'll take everything with a grain of salt, but do not
Yeah,
take with a grain of salt that we won't pick a good player because we, like you said, we always pick somebody who
we
turns
do.
out to be a good player. All right. So speaking of good players, Kashawn Aitcheson, who boy, I love this kid. Love, love, love him. I want to know why he's not ranked higher, but Russ is going to answer that for us coming up next. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's sometimes easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending all in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. And when I first started using Monarch, I didn't know how much I was spending on food delivery. And now I've got that locked down so I can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps with different accounts in different places, I use Monarch to check finances and even plan some long term goals. So you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money too. Use code locked on NHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code locked on NHL for half off your first year. All right, in this week's Tankathon lottery simulator test, which I'm doing every week right before our prospect profile, same as last week, it took 4 tries to get the first overall pick here. Although, interestingly, this time, the first 2 spins, nobody changed position at all, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's hard to do, to have it be chalk like that.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, we'll see what happens next week. But Kashawn Aitcheson, oh my God. Okay. So this kid is a left-handed defenseman. He's 6'1", so he's like big, but not like massive, but he's already bulked up. He's like around 200 pounds, which is pretty impressive. He is older for his draft class, so he turns 19 in September. So definitely won't be in the U18s this
No.
year, but he does play for Barrie in the OHL, which is a very good team. They won their division this year in the regular season. Barrie just won the Eastern Conference semifinals. That was a 7-game series, but they did win. So they'll go on to the conference finals in the OHL playoffs. And the thing I love about Kashawn is that he really is a true two-way defenseman
Hmm.
where he gets his positioning on the back end is really good. He always anticipates where the play is going to go, but he's so dynamic offensively and will step up in the offensive zone like constantly. And I love that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be dynamic offensively in the next level because I think they're going to put him in a role. And so I don't think he's going to have a chance. But I'm going to read you a quote from an article I did on him on Elite Prospects in September. And I did talk about his puck moving, and he did say he didn't know if that was always in his game. But, he says what's always been in his game is a nasty edge. I gravitated towards the guys that were meaner and nastier. And he talks about getting in guys' heads. He talks about getting in someone's head. I know they're scared and a little bit timid about going into the corners. I think I always have the upper hand in that situation on the ice. Like, that's all you need to know. When somebody has that going for them, you want that player on your team.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like he has the vision defensively to be in the right position
To pull that
all
off, yeah.
the time. Yeah, and he covers the back door really well. Like
Yeah.
people are just not going to get by him, and he has that physicality,
He
which is
does.
tremendous. He throws huge hits
Yep.
all the time. So he backs up that intimidation factor on a regular basis, and he gets into fights. But, like, again, I've just seen him make tremendous plays in the offensive zone too, and so just knowing he can, like, pull that out of his toolbox
Mhm.
is really good, even if it doesn't turn out to be his bread and butter at the
Right.
professional level. I think, like, that will only help build his skills as a strong two-way defenseman at the NHL level, right?
Yeah, he's a really good athlete. He's smart. He gets the game. But yeah, I think the reason I have him in this spot is because I don't think he has high end offense.
Which is 14, by the way.
Yes, I don't think he has high end offense, but I think the offense is there. But I think that once you get to a certain point and certain defensemen are gone in this draft, somebody's going to be like, we want this tough SOB on our team.
Right. Now, the highest he's ranked is 12, the lowest is 37. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that
Mhm.
he will be available for one of the lower picks that the Flyers have.
I mean, I
And
think you could throw out 37. I'm going to just say right now, he's going
well,
way before
yes.
that.
Right. But I think, in the low mid 20s,
Yeah, that's possible.
possible, right? I don't know that he's a guy that you move up for necessarily, that you like burn capital to get. But at the same time, I think he's absolutely somebody you take a shot with.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there's a team that will take an extra third because you got to move up 2 spots to get him and swap spots, yeah, I'll do that. I mean, so I would do that for him. So I don't think that's burning a lot of capital. It's just burning
Right.
some extra things that you have because you still have a lot of second round picks. So if they can pull that off, do it.
Yeah. He is fourth in the OHL in playoff scoring for defensemen right now, which again, you said may not translate, but I still think that's an important aspect of
Oh
his
no, it
game.
is. I mean, right now
And
it's helping him develop, and then you
mhm,
see you're depending on what team he goes and what number defenseman he is. He's definitely a second pairing guy. Like that's at
right.
worst, he's that.
Right. And to me, I think he nets out as your defenseman on your second unit power play at the
Good.
NHL level. I think that potential is there. Just I've seen some of his playmaking on the power play. And again, obviously he's going to work better with a little bit more open ice.
Hmm.
But he does have that defensive sensibility that he's not really going to get caught as much.
No, no.
Right. And so that's where I see him as your solid second
Okay.
unit guy.
I think it's possible depending on the team and who they've got. Yeah.
Right. Right. So that potential is there. He does have a significant amount of scoring on the power play. So he has the experience there
Yeah.
to pull it off. Like, do you see him as a PK guy at all?
I think he could be because with that kind of aggression and good skating that, yeah, I think again, he could end up being that guy that you end up using in all situations. So I do think that's very possible.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just like something about this guy pops to me. And he
Oh,
feels like a
it definitely
flyer.
pops.
He just feels like a very Flyers kind of
He
guy
does.
and somebody that they would pick. It's not just somebody that I like that I would hope that they
Right.
pick, but he feels like a guy they would actually pick given the opportunity.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if they see him within reach or know a team that could swap with you to get him, I think there's a chance of that.
Yeah. So again, we'll see how the rankings turn out. We'll see where the Flyers picks turn out, given how the playoffs go.
Right.
Uh, go Dallas, I guess, at this point. But
Yep,
we'll
yep.
see. We'll see how all of that shakes out. And even though I think both of us picked the Avs in that series, but at any rate,
It's tied up.
um,
You never know. Well, although it won't
never
be
know.
tied up by the time this airs, so who the hell knows?
Right. So on tomorrow's show, we are going to talk about the Flyers core and who is the core and who might step up to become part of the core next season. And where does Matt Mitchkoff fit into all of that? Again, kind of given the language barrier and all of
Yeah.
that. I think it's an interesting conversation to have. So we're going to do that on tomorrow's show. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So send in those mailbag questions or your Flyers thoughts on the draft or the core of the team via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. It's every game, every night until that Stanley Cup is crowned. Get all your local analysis on a national scale with NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.